Welcome to the 2026 ChannelX Leaders Interviews. I'm delighted to be joined for this session by Peter, Marketplace Director at Tesco. So welcome, Peter. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. Great to see you, Chris.
Good. So for those that don't know you, Peter, who are you? How did you end up at Tesco's, and how did you end up being their Marketplace Director?
No, thanks. I have spent the last 20 odd years in retail. I was originally a buyer and category manager on the high street, so Boots and Superdrug. And then I spent the best part of a decade over at Amazon and built some businesses, led Amazon Prime for them, built Amazon Fresh, and eventually decided to come back into kind of British retail, I suppose. Joined Tesco about 5 years ago as the online strategy and development director. And basically was charged with broadening our online proposition. Initially, that meant rapid delivery, building out our Whoosh business. It meant building out an operating model to bring clothing back to our customers. And the challenge that really excited me was figuring out how to bring an extended range of non-food back for our customers. So we had exited Tesco Direct. We had this fantastic customer expectation that we served more than just food, but we hadn't done it for a number of years. And over the past few years, me and the team have designed and built our marketplace model. And then 2 years ago, I was very honoured to move and manage it directly.
Fantastic. I think Tesco's, first of all, it goes without saying, it's a brand everyone knows. I think just about everyone in the country must have been in a Tesco's either for their weekly grocery shop or running in to grab a lunch on the go. So it's a brand that name recognition beyond all else.
It definitely helps.
But I think Marketplace is really interesting and range extension. And kind of since you launched the Marketplace, I guess 2025 was your first full calendar year operating as a marketplace from sort of January through to Christmas and December. How has that full year gone? Has there been any surprises? Was Christmas as good as you expected? Were there peaks that you weren't expecting?
No, there definitely were. We had an early surprise with the success over summer. So we had firmly expected that Black Friday would be our single biggest peak. And actually, we saw phenomenal sales of all things outdoor, garden, cooling. I think it was one of the categories we'd expanded quickest, earliest. So we were well placed to deal with the demand. But it was a really nice kind of moment to realize, actually, this is working. Customers are coming, looking for these products at Tesco. It proved it wasn't just market research. It wasn't just customer propensity that said, "Oh yeah, I would buy that from Tesco." Actually, people were coming and buying £1,000 sheds and £600 barbecues and things that we haven't sold in store ever, and we haven't sold online for the best part of a decade. So that was really, really gratifying. We've been really pleased over the year with how we've maintained our kind of quality levels. One of the interesting challenges about building a marketplace at Tesco has been, how do we maintain quality and trust, both for customers and sellers? And actually, it's been one of the areas that I was initially worried would be a limiting factor. Actually, it's become one of our strengths. So, customer contact rate is really low, delivery times are fantastic, refunds are much lower than we expected. Our customer NPS, our recommend score, is actually one of the best at Tesco. So we're really, really excited about that. And that all gave us great momentum going into peak. Black Friday did everything we hoped it would. We planned and executed a Black Friday that worked for us. For the first time, we were talking about Marketplace in our stores. We were on the store radio. It was really starting to feel like we were leveraging the strength of Tesco. Christmas maybe a little bit softer than I hoped it would be. One of the nuances we maybe hadn't thought too much about was customers also need to trust that the delivery lead times are going to be accurate. We saw longer delivery estimates than I hoped, and therefore customers took that as it's not going to come in time for Christmas, and started kind of going elsewhere in that final week. But that just gives us something to work on for next year. It's really, really enforce the idea that it's not just about having the right product at the right price, but it has to come when you want it.
I have to say, huge congratulations, because 2025 has been a tricky year for everyone. The economy hasn't been great. Yes, people's salaries may have gone up a little bit, but the inflation's pretty much wiped out that. It's been a tricky year all round. But something I'm really interested in, you've been talking about people buying £1,000 shed on Tesco Marketplace. Can you share any insights on whether people are kind of doing their weekly grocery shop, which I do on Tesco's myself, and then adding in marketplace products, or are they browsing marketplace products as a separate shopping visit? I'm trying to think how embedded it is with just like, I'm a Tesco shopper, I found it, I'll buy it, as opposed to Tesco's as a destination for buying these different types of products.
It's a bit of both. So, you mentioned the kind of Tesco brand recognition, name recognition. That really works in our favour. We have a lot of traffic coming to the website week in, week out to buy their groceries. So that gives me an accessible customer base that I don't have to work too hard to talk to. What we tend to see is that those customers are buying into categories that we previously sold online. So, they're buying into maybe premium whiskey from Marketplace, where they might have been buying core whiskey before that. We've always sold things like pet, baby, health and beauty. So those categories tend to have the greatest overlap with the Tesco grocery delivery business. What's been really interesting, though, is there's a very distinct and separate group of customers that are coming to Tesco Marketplace. We hope over time they'll obviously cross-pollinate back into the core business. But for some of those, large TVs, large sheds, things like that, actually they're coming to Marketplace specifically, or rather coming to Tesco specifically, for a mission that they previously couldn't have served. So yeah, it's definitely a some and some.
Yeah,
we're really happy with both groups actually. Like I'm thrilled that we're growing the online customer base for Tesco, but I'm equally thrilled that we're accessing the existing one.
And interesting, you something also that you mentioned was in-store marketplace announcements. And how do you get the messaging across? Because I'm thinking, I'm down the baked beans aisle, and someone says, "Would you like to buy a garden shed on Marketplace?" How does that crossover work?
I mean, that was for Black Friday, and less about garden sheds and more about great deals online. So just signposting that there is more than you can see in the store. Shelf edge POS, things like that in the general merchandise section, in the home section, pointing to extended ranges online. So one of the things I think you'll see more from us is that kind of cross-channel collaboration. How do we bring Marketplace into store, and how do we help store customers come into Marketplace?
And I know in the main Tesco's there's kind of, I don't know what, 40,000 odd products. How's the growth of the Marketplace driven that range extension and over the course of the year? Has it been a big bump at the start, or are you still growing? And what are your ambitions? Where do you want to get to?
Still growing. We went through a major replatform this year, so that simultaneously slowed down some of our range growth to enable the replatform, but also lays the foundations for more significant growth in the coming year. We have recently refocused our range strategy a little bit around that. It's really important to me that we don't just go after a number, that we go after the right products themselves. We're trying to serve particular need states, particular missions for our customers. Bringing on a seller 50,000 products that are never going to sell, that nobody's interested in, doesn't serve that. And so trying to be more deliberate about the quality, the categories, the subcategories, the missions that we serve is probably our watchword for this year.
But this is really important for our ChannelX audience. Can you talk a little bit about your aspirations for range extension, and in particular categories that are going to be important for Tesco in 2026, that if I'm a supplier, a retailer of those products, I should be tweaking my ears and thinking, right, Tesco's 2026 the year for me?
I mean, we're really proud to be a cross-category marketplace. Our customers have told us they're interested and willing to buy all sorts of things. And I've lost track of the times where somebody's raised their eyebrow about a product in particular. Sheds, for example, was one of them. Only to be sort of eat their words when I told them we're selling them. Customers are happy to buy that. The priority categories for us in terms of overall sales growth, home, outdoor, electricals are probably the big ones. So the sort of the real non-food categories, general merchandise categories. And then adjacent to that, all of those near food categories. So those extensions like health and beauty, pet, baby, really important that we round out our ranges in those. So any of those categories, any listeners and readers that sell in those categories, we'd love to hear from you. We haven't shut the door in the others. Just those are the ones that we're most focused on. So that's where our marketing will be most focused. That's where our site experience will most evolve, and where you're most likely to hear a kind of proactive reach out from us. But actually, we still sell everything else. And so as long as it's a consumer product, we're not really interested in professional and trade. But as long as it's a consumer product that you might reasonably expect somewhere like Tesco to sell, then you can come through and work through some of the self-serve tools and bring it on.
Fantastic. We'll be looking to hear more from that throughout the course of the year. But on the other side of the business, what's your tech roadmap looking like for the year? Is there anything that brands that want to sell on Tesco's need to know about, or anything that they should be getting excited about?
Yeah. So I mentioned the re-platform, really bedding that in, making sure we're making the most of everything there is still important. But going beyond that, one of the things we're really keen is that working with Tesco gives you something more. So kind of building the additional insights, the additional kind of seller hubs and support for our sellers is really, really critical to us. We want to help the sellers be successful. That's how I'm successful. But we do that by finding ways to augment some of the existing platforms or integrations that exist. So better data, better understanding of what's selling in your customer, better media integration, better ways of, we launched a buy box this year, better insight into how to win the buy box, how to manage your range appropriately for that buy box. So there's a lot of work in that space. We'll continue to evolve our customer experience. So how customers find and discover the marketplace products, continuing to fight on that journey of blending groceries and non-food together. And then, Tesco has a really solid sort of marketing technology roadmap. So how we turn all of that great range into, a communication, an email notification, content that gets in front of customers in a truly personalized way. One of our principles at Tesco is around personalization, and the range growth really supports that, because the ability to find the right product then becomes really interesting.
And I have to admit, as a Tesco's customer, I was seeing that, especially around Black Friday, when I was doing, basically I was putting my Christmas order in early for groceries, and it's shouting at me, marketplace, marketplace, marketplace. So great to see that. Now, 2026 is likely to be a tricky year financially for the economies, not just in the UK, but around the world. How do you see the Tesco marketplace prospering with still a kind of constrained discretionary spend for many, but obviously a lot of people will still be shopping at Tesco for value and convenience?
So value and convenience are kind of big watchwords for us too. I mentioned £1,000 sheds. I don't want the £1,000 shed to be an £800 shed being sold for £1,000, right? So value is really, really important. It's an interesting dynamic as a retailer working as running a marketplace. There are various anti-competitive things we need to be aware of around price, but helping our sellers understand the optimum pricing for their products, understand how to best drive their own sales and their own success is often through value and supporting that for the customer. We enabled our marketplace sellers to participate in things like club card prices, so that helps great value get in front of customers. And I mentioned things like the buy box. So that's a really powerful mechanic for any marketplace to have to support, where you've got that overlapping selection. It's really effective at driving down price for customers. I don't think any marketplace can be successful if you've got somebody kind of showrooming and sitting at exaggerated prices, and market conditions just mean that those products just won't sell. So it's our job to help sellers grow their business in profitable ways. Right? My job isn't to drive down price for them, but it's to help find the right balance between our sellers' business and our customer needs.
So looking like a great year for 2026, and I know that retailers and brands will be able to run into you at various events throughout the year. And we'll put your LinkedIn contact details below as well. But for someone that wants to sell on the Tesco marketplace and they're ready just to get going and engage, where do they go to sign up to request to sell on Tesco's?
So what I'll do is give you our registration details, so we can put that in the post for this.
So just look below the video for the link.
That's probably the easiest way. We have twofold. So we have the inbound leads from that, and that will basically be assessed against kind of the priority categories, the credibility of the seller. And then we have outbound reach as well. So, within those categories that are most important to us, we're working through a kind of hit list of brands. So you may hear from us, you may see us at trade shows and events like ChannelX. But equally, if you're sitting there thinking you can be successful at Tesco, use the registration form below and get in touch, and we'll work through as quickly as we can.
Brilliant. Peter, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks very much, Chris. See you soon.